The Bigger Bodies Initiative is one of the most despicable experiments ever conducted, yet despite its notorious reputation, the reality doesn't match the story we've been told. It turns out, what we've been led to believe is not the whole truth, and we've been lied to from the very beginning. First, let's start by unfolding when it was initiated and who had the idea to start this horrendous project. In the 1980s, Playtime Co. was on the brink of closing. They experienced incident after incident, one of them being the famous catnap recall. This was a huge blow to the company and caused them to permanently omit catnap from the smiling critters. This took a big toll on their profits, which would only be one of the many growing problems. The lower-level employees began to catch on to the secret experiments Playtime Co. was conducting, even when they weren't supposed to. As a result, the company became severely understaffed, leading to poor safety protocols and increasing workplace incidents. Henry Sawyer, or the Doctor, was desperate to solve the situation. It was he who proposed a solution to the issue, and the solution is what we all know as the Bigger Bodies Initiative. The project involved turning toys such as Huggy Wuggy and Catnap into living giants. Their sole purpose would be to bend to the whims of Playtime's needs without any consideration for their own. With the project, Sawyer hoped that Playtime Co. could be saved from bankruptcy while keeping their secrets in the dark. Now, in order to execute the BBI, or Bigger Bodies Initiative, they needed test subjects. Nobody would make better candidates than the Playcare orphans themselves. Alone with no family connections, they were the perfect way for Playtime to avoid any legal trouble. Their minds were like blank canvases, ready to be painted with any color. Moreover, their innocence wouldn't make them question what the company was doing to them. Playtime Co. wouldn't just choose any orphan randomly. They handpicked the children, making sure they were mentally and physically capable for their required toy. This is why they created testing sites disguised as games in the game station. These were actually built to test the orphans' intelligence and endurance before Playtime decided their fate. If an orphan passed the test, they would be put to sleep using poppy gas, so the scientists could extract their organs and place their consciousness in a toy. In addition to the orphans, Playtime employees were also used as test subjects. Knowing that the victims were adults, they were most likely forced after going against the company. But there's one confirmed case in which an employee volunteered to be an experiment. The employee's name was Thomas Clark. He was a pediatrician who dedicated 36 years of his life to work for Playcare. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer at the age of 59, and one of his last wishes was to contribute to the Bigger Bodies Initiative as a test subject. A side effect of undergoing this process is that some toys don't maintain their memories of when they were human. However, they were reported to show particular attachment to things or places they had been familiar with. We can see an instance of this with Kissy Missy. In Chapter 3, she can be found looking at a photo of someone in one of the rooms in Home Sweet Home. It's very likely that she used to be close to the person in the photo before she became the Kissy Missy BBI. And Home Sweet Home might make her feel safe since she would have grown up as an orphan there. One important thing to note is that not all BBI toys are actually bigger than the usual toy size. Some of them are tiny, like the mini Huggies you find in the game station and the mini critters in the playhouse. Also, not all the toys inside the factory are Bigger Body toys. In fact, Poppy herself isn't a part of the initiative, even though she's alive. She's a result of an experiment conducted even before the BBI was initiated. And a lot of the toys are just regular toys made to be sold for children, especially the ones that are packed in boxes. It's pretty hard to differentiate the experiments from the normal toys. If a Bigger Bodies toy were just standing still, there's nothing really to indicate that it's a living being. Each BBI experiment is assigned a serial number, presumably the order of the experiments. So if the prototype's number is 1006, it means that he's the 1006th experiment Playtime has ever made. The first successful BBI toy is Boxy Boo, or Experiment 1160. This means that it took them more than 1,000 sacrifices just to create a perfect living toy. Playtime made sure to make Boxy Boo extremely strong. He was given the task of disposing lower-level employees who became aware of the project. He could attack and instantly kill his victims, all within the blink of an eye. Given how powerful they made him, it's pretty understandable why it took them so long to get it right. And then with Experiment 1170 came Huggy Wuggy. He was tasked with being in charge of security, so it explains why he hunts us down in Chapter 1. He's supposed to watch out for any intruders trespassing at the factory. With the employees of Playtime now gone, it's safe to assume that the prototype allowed Huggy to still carry out these same duties. Next was Experiment 1188, also known as Catnap. His job was to be the caretaker of Home Sweet Home in Playcare. Before Catnap became a BBI experiment, he was a little child named Theodore Grambell. Even at the present time, he still seems to have a special attachment to the place. Following him was Experiment 1199, a toy dinosaur named Brawn. He used to be Thomas Clark, the dying employee we discussed earlier. Even after Thomas Clark's wish was granted, he continued to suffer after a brutal attack by Boxy Boo. This attack left him critically injured, and it's currently unknown whether he's dead or alive. Later came Experiment 1222, Mommy Longlegs. She was assigned to host and oversee the games in the game station. Her motherly personality distinguished her from the other toys. However, she would still become hostile, especially towards the scientists. She had a strong hate for anybody who cheated or disobeyed her. Fun fact, while the other toys were released to the public before their Bigger Bodies version, the opposite happened to Mommy Longlegs. The rest of the Bigger Bodies toys haven't had their numbers revealed yet. This list includes Kissy Missy, Mr. Light, Bunzo Bunny, and PJ Pugapillar. The whole project was brought to an abrupt stop in 1995. This was of course due to the prototype's interference, where he had every toy turn on the factory. That year, the prototype decided that he'd had enough of being tortured, so he moved his army of other experiments to get revenge on all Playtime employees. There were barely any survivors left from that incident, but one person managed to escape his death. His name was Leith Pierre, and he was one of Playtime's higher-ups. Even after the whole company crumbled, this man still had no plan to discontinue the Bigger Bodies initiative. Leith would soon send in a special team called the Resource Extraction Specialists. Their main goal would be to retrieve as many pieces of the toys they could get their hands on.
Hi there, my name's Leith Pierre, and welcome to your job as a Resource Extraction Specialist. Now, first things first. As per your agreement, anything you do, hear, see, etc. is strictly privileged.
However, it was very difficult for the team to make it out alive, due to the experiments constantly preying on them. At last, Leith Pierre gave up and closed the project once and for all. The Bigger Bodies initiative all stemmed from one important factor, an ingredient that through multiple trials and errors made this horrible process possible. Inside Elliot Ludwig's office, we have the infamous Experiment 814 note. This of course contains some written notes from Elliot about his understanding of the poppy flower. Analysis. I still believe in the potential of the poppy flower. Its unusual properties lead me to believe that the proper mixture and procedure could have life-altering properties. The poppy flower has for a long time carried heavy symbolism, and I don't believe that's for no reason. Perhaps something larger than a rat would yield different results. From this piece of paper, we know that Elliot Ludwig himself, the founder of the company, had been conducting experiments since way long ago, though this was on a much smaller scale compared to what we would eventually see. The game tells us that Elliot lost a family member, and it caused him to hit his lowest point. However, it never specified which family member he lost. Speculations aside, one thing we know for certain is his obsession with what eventually led him to the poppy flower. It's revealed on this note that he tried to revive a rat using a mixture of poppy flower and gel. This is very likely to be the prototype of the red gas, no pun intended, and when he mentions in the note something larger than a rat, he most definitely was referring to humans. Elliot may or may not have been involved in the Bigger Bodies initiative, but he surely contributed to the creation of some of our fan favorites. Let us know your thoughts regarding the Bigger Bodies initiative. Did Playtime do the right thing when they decided to bring toys to life? Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. We'll be back with more videos like this. See you next time.